Hi, and welcome to the board wrap-up. The Ponca City Board of Education held their March board meeting recently, and with spring break on the way, the Board of Education got it wrapped up before the spring break, and after spring break, of course, everybody comes back, and it's hard to believe we're really on that stretch run, aren't we?
Well, I tell you what, we are on the downhill slide. Obviously, when we come back from spring break, and it's really already started, and it's part of the world we live in today, we get ready to start state testing. And all the high stakes tests that we take, we used to think about high stakes testing only applying to high school students because they have to have those tests to graduate. But because of changes in state law now, beginning officially in the 2013-14 school year, but really starting next year, a part of the evaluation that an individual teacher receives is going to be based upon test scores. And so not only, we've always wanted our students to do the best we can, but now you have the added pressure that teachers' jobs could be on the line when students take tests. I'm not sure that that's the best way to do things, but it is the trend in the country right now, and it's the law in the state of Oklahoma. So until somebody convinces the member of the legislature that this is not a good idea, and I can tell you that school administrators have not been able to win that argument. That's the system we're going to be in for the foreseeable future.
I know you talked about that, and I don't know whether gray area is a good way to put it, but it is changing the way that we evaluate teachers, how they are graded on their performances, and I'd like you to talk about that a little bit, because the way it was done and the way it is going to be done, a little different now.
Well, in the past, when we've evaluated teachers, we've looked at how they teach class is basically what we've looked at. How do they present a lesson? How do they question students? How do they prepare themselves? Beginning in a pilot basis in 2012-13, but beginning officially in 2013-14, 33% of the score that a teacher earns in their evaluation will be based on academic performance of the students in their classroom. Now, somehow this is supposed to be based on academic growth over time. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work, because the test we give to students, we give once a year. So we don't really measure how much growth goes on in a classroom. We measure what students know on a particular day. We do have an assessment that we give in Ponca City, grades 3 through 8, the measure of academic progress. It provides us with a way to evaluate student growth from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And so we know how it can be done, but that's not what the state system does. They're completely two different systems. So it looks to me like we're trying to take a state system, which is a test to determine student proficiency that we give once a year, and we're going to try to somehow convert that into a test that measures growth. I don't think you can really do that and do it in a fair, reliable, accurate way, but that's the system we have in place. And so, again, if you think about, our teachers have been under pressure for a number of years to help students do better because the school was going to get graded. But now that pressure's just been ratcheted up, because now their livelihood depends upon that. Again, some people think that's a good idea. I really think our teachers have always worked with our kids. They've always tried to help kids improve. I don't really know there's anything more we can do than we've done. I just think it's going to put a lot of pressure on teachers and on students, and I don't know that that's the system we want to be in.
Absolutely. There was some good news. Governor Fallin signed a document which will allow for some bonuses to teachers, and something that has unfortunately been in the news, and that's the teacher retirement system. But there was some good news for that.
Yeah, last year, again, we've had two, really three very difficult budgets in the state of Oklahoma. The last two have been the most difficult because we ran out of federal money. And there's been a lot of discussion about whether the stimulus money, did it really help the economy? What I can tell you is that it kept teachers employed in Oklahoma. And we actually even hired additional staff for a couple of years that we believe helped student instruction. So I believe it was very beneficial to school districts and wish we still had that money. But last year when the State Department got their budget, they didn't have enough money to pay for all the things the State Department does. And one of the things that Superintendent Barisi did is she cut out the money, the stipend that teachers who are nationally board certified receive. They receive $5,000 a year. Legislation was passed several years ago that said if you get national board certification, we're going to pay you $5,000 a year for at least 10 years. At that time, the thought was this national board certification was a benefit to teachers. It would help them become better instructors. Students would benefit. So that's a good thing for us to do. Really, starting about 5 years ago, the state never had enough money to pay for all of it. They would cut it a little bit, or they wouldn't pay the Social Security and the other burdens attached with it. So it's been kind of a point of dissension between schools, the state, and teachers for a number of years. But last year, they, for the first time, didn't pay any of it for the 2011-2012 school year. So you had people who had made financial decisions on this income that weren't going to get it. If you had 2 nationally board certified teachers in your family, you lost $10,000. So it's a big deal. Fortunately, when that decision was made, teachers contacted the legislature, let them know their displeasure, and it became a priority for the legislature this year to get that fixed. Now what they've said is that they're going to meet the obligation to people who had their national board certification before July 1st, 2010. Everybody else, they're not going to get the stipend. So they've had a change in philosophy. It's not a popular program at the legislature anymore. They're going to discontinue it, but at least they're going to pay the people that they promised the money to.
Encourage folks to drive down West Grand. That West project is really coming along. I know that right now, as the weather starts to get nicer, a lot of people probably have questions about some of our bond projects.
Yeah. Well, obviously, the West Middle School is going to be a great improvement to that facility. And again, while it's architecturally attractive, the reason we did that is because the way West was configured, an individual could walk in the front doors and we did not know they were in the building. And we considered that to be a security issue. And so we wanted to move the offices of the building to a location where we could monitor who came in the building, and it really out of the building during the school day. There was no room, there was no way to change the existing structure, and so we made the decision to add a new front entrance. So that structure they see is going to contain offices. Once school starts, when anybody comes into the school, they will have to walk into the office to get into the main building. That way we can make sure they get their visitor identification, and then they'll have access. And so we think that's a major security improvement. It works that way at East now. It'll be that way at West. Someday we would like to have that structure at each of our facilities. Obviously, those are expensive additions. I think this is probably about a $1.6, $1.7 million project. Some of that's because of some awning we're putting up to kind of do some work to create a courtyard area for students to sit at during the lunch period. So maybe it's a little bit more expensive there than it would be at other sites. And then the rest of our sites, if you especially think about our elementary schools, we're limited space-wise, so we really don't have a lot of room in the front of the building to add we could probably figure out a way to do it, and we'll work on it. But that's kind of a long-term goal. The other projects we have that are going to take place this summer, we are going to completely renovate the restrooms and the flooring at Liberty Elementary. We're going to put new flooring in all the classrooms. We're going to take restrooms that have been there since the 1950s, gut those and redo them. And we're also going to redo some cabinets and some other millwork at that building. So it won't be as an extensive renovation as what took place at Roosevelt, where we took the school all the way down to a shell and built it back. But it's going to be a pretty extensive renovation. At Trout and Woodlands, we're going to renovate the restrooms and we're going to redo the floors. We have a challenge with our elementary facilities in that while it's hard for people to believe, we have some old buildings. Liberty, Woodlands were built in the 50s. Trout was built in the 60s. And so those buildings are 60 years old in some cases. We don't seem to have much support for building new elementary schools. If we had all the money we needed and we didn't have to pass bond issues, I would rebuild. I would take Trout and Woodlands, find another location, and build one elementary school for about 600 students. But that's not where we are. We seem to like our neighborhood schools. We like the small schools that we have. So we'll keep the facilities, but we have to continue to we have to renovate them. We have to go in and as much as we can without taking all the interior walls out and those kind of things, recreate those spaces over time, so that the building has a new feel to it. One thing we discovered when we built Garfield is the fact that we built those children over there a new school completely changed their attitude about school. The work we did at Lincoln 2 years ago, where we replaced all the carpet in Lincoln, brightened the building up, and created a new feeling about that school. And so we need to do that, and so we'll continue to work on that. Obviously, we have some issues with we're going to get the hallways done at Woodlands and Trout. In the future, we need to come back in and do the classrooms. Part of this is we're taking carpet out of our buildings for indoor air quality purposes. What we know about carpet is that it traps everything, and the reality is we're not going to replace our carpet every 10 years. We just can't afford to do that. So we're better off taking the carpet out, going back in with some kind of a flooring, synthetic flooring of some kind, and then moving on from there. So, but that's what we started to do. Last night we talked about the future. We talked about what's next for us as far as bond issues. We went through the process that we've gone through as a district to identify our needs. If you look at the kind of what are the big ticket items that are out there, we need to get rid of the portables at Woodlands and Trout. We've tried to do that a couple times, and about the time we think it's done, we have an increase in enrollment. But so the only way to solve that is to build new classrooms at those facilities, and we can do that. The question is, how many classrooms do you add? Do you add the classrooms you need today, or do you look into the future and say, what are we going to need? I don't know about you, but when I go around town, I see a lot of babies. And we're in the midst of, I think, the beginning of a third baby boom. If you think about the people who were born in the late 40s and early 50s right out of the war, that was the first baby boom. We had another baby boom in the 90s when the baby boomers had children. And now we're starting to see the baby boomers' children have children. So that segment of the population is starting to grow. So we anticipate that we're going to grow just because of the growth of our community and the number of babies. Somebody told me the other day they're having 60 babies a month born out at the hospital. Well, that's a lot of little kiddos. And so we need to start thinking about how are we going to get our schools. We have Washington, which is empty, and we could open that building again someday if it were necessary, but I think we would prefer to use the spaces we have, maybe add on to those schools, because we still have small elementary schools. I mean, the normal, if you were to build an elementary school today, you probably wouldn't build anything less than 600 students just because of the economy of scale. And most of our schools, have somewhere between 250 and 300 kids, so they're basically half the size they need to be. The challenge we have is they have small land area. We don't have big tracts of land that we can add a building to without taking playground space and parking space. So we've got some challenges. We just have to figure them out, and I'm pretty sure that we'll do that. But that's a priority. Elevators. You actually have to walk down steps at Woodlands, Liberty, and Trout to get to the lunchroom. We don't have elevators in those buildings, so we need to do that. We need to put elevators so that right now if we have a student that's in a wheelchair and they live in the Trout attendance zone, they go to school somewhere else in the district. Well, we've been ADA's been around now for almost 40 years. We need to get our buildings all handicap accessible. Obviously, at the secondary level, a performing arts center is really a big decision for this community. It's an expensive project. It affects a small number of students. Potentially affects the entire community, but when you think about a building and how much you're going to use it every day, performing arts centers, gymnasiums are not things that are used every day the same way a school itself is. But we have a tremendous program. Our facilities are not up to date. They don't meet. They are not what you would build today. The auditorium at the high school was built in the 1920s. It's almost 100 years old. So we have to think about that and what do we want to provide our students? Do we want to provide them? If we really are wanting to provide the best education possible, then that means performance spaces and it means 21st century classrooms for those performance classes. It's expensive, but we can do that with keeping our bond millage rate the same. And we build a building that will be here 100 years from now. It seems like, we've looked at somewhere $18 to $20 million. That's a lot of money, but is it a lot of money over a 100-year time period? And I think we have to, from my perspective, of course, I'm a school person. I believe we have an obligation to provide our students the best facilities that we can, if we can afford it. And we can easily afford that in Ponca City. It's not, if we decide not to build a performing arts center, it won't be because we don't have the money. And if the citizens of this community decide not to pass a performing arts center, it won't because we can't afford it. I don't know what the reason not to do it is.
Under your leadership, there have been some very subtle changes up at the school and around the high school, the purchasing of some land, the removal of some buildings. And I know that you and I have talked several times about a performing arts center and where it might be located. And I have a feeling that that land is not going to be wasted, whether it's that or whether it's something else. But do we stand any closer today determining what is going to go on some of that land north of the high school, or are we just not there yet?
Well, I think we're closer. I think that, originally the thought was that's where the Performing Arts Center would go. But because of some work that our architects have done, we really have a plan that I think is a great plan that would put the Performing Arts Center in between the existing high school and Robinson Fieldhouse, where the baseball field now sits. It's funny, when I actually saw Dr. White a year ago, and he mentioned that that's where he always wanted to put a Performing Arts Center. But we could put that facility there, tie it into the high school, and really complete the high school campus. Now, we would have to have some place for the baseball field to go, and there's enough land when we get the entire 2 blocks purchased that will allow us to build a baseball field. So I think we could do that. Now, we've had some discussion about putting baseball and softball both there. I think we have to really think about that, because I think we could do that, but I think we'd be very crowded. If you think about the way OSU is set up, where Allie P. Reynolds and then the softball field's right up against it, I don't know that we want to do that. We have a nice softball complex now. We can continue to improve that. We have plenty of space out there. So I think we need to, to me, that's the hardest decision to make. Obviously because we have to move the baseball field, that increases the cost of the project. But I think that's ultimately what happens. If I were to say today what I think will happen, I think we'll put the baseball field north of the football stadium. The Performing Arts Center will go between the high school and Robinson Fieldhouse. Will have an unbelievable complex there. It'll give us parking, some parking where the baseball field is now, and which will help for football. So I just think we can really update our facilities if we make that decision. And again, the board may have a different idea, and all this is dependent upon getting 60% of the people who vote in an election to approve it. So that's where I think we're headed.
One more question before I let you address your constituents as you want. You built a good team here. I know that last night you voted on some contracts. Are you going to keep that team intact next year?
Well, we hope to. Obviously, we have people on our staff now who have opportunities. You know, I think I always want to. I want to have people that work for us that other school districts want. And as of right now, nobody has a job in another district. That doesn't mean that couldn't change quickly. We are now in the part of the season where people start to hire, where either assistant superintendent jobs or superintendent jobs are open up. You know, I will tell you, we've had I don't know if I'd call it controversy or not, but you know, we've had some individuals who don't support the salary structure we have in place for some of our employees. And so they don't necessarily see the value that the board in the past has seen in some of our personnel. And so that we've taken some criticism for the salaries that people receive, especially in our assistant superintendent positions. Child nutrition director, has been a couple of things in the newspaper about that. But that really translates on throughout our staff. I think if you want to employ good people, you have to pay them. The people that we have in this district have options; they can work other places, and you know, it's a fair criticism to say that, well, just let them go to work someplace else. Okay, but then we expect to hire quality people back, and I just think that's hard to do when you have artificial salary barriers. Obviously, you know, we don't throw money at people. I can tell you, of the people that I work with here, nobody has ever come to me and said, if I don't make X number of dollars, I'm going to leave. We look at similar positions in other school districts that we have to compete with, and we try to make sure that we pay on par with them so that we can have the same quality of person in Ponca City that would serve as an assistant superintendent in Jinx or Edmond, Oklahoma City, Tulsa. I would think that's what we want. I would think we would want the best quality people we could get. We have some people that have been in this district for a long time. And so when you have people that have been in the same school district for a long time, they're going to make more money in a position than somebody who's been in a district 5 years, or 10 years or 15 years. And so those things kind of blur. I mean, it's not. There are lots of factors that determine the salary that everybody is paid. We have salary schedules the board has approved. We have some individuals who we don't have a salary. We don't have a salary schedule for assistant superintendents. At some future date, if we ever had a situation where both of those jobs were open at the same time, we might put a salary schedule in place. But when you have, the situation we had before where Dr. Serber had been an employee of this district for 35 years, to try to put a salary schedule that was on par with him and Dr. Neiman would not have been easy. When Dr. Serber left, we brought Dr. Simpson in. The same thing. Nancy had been in the district 25 years. Salary schedules only work when you have people who are, there's some equity within the job that they have. And the thing about, those jobs all change. We have lots of people in this district who have taken on additional responsibilities over the years. And, we never really compensated them appropriately for that. And when I came into this district, we were we had the financial times were better, and we did some things to correct some inequities that existed. All that being said, we have good people. They choose to work in Ponca City. If they leave us, we will have trouble filling those positions with the same quality person. What we continue to find is that because of the growth in the suburban areas, if you think about Ponca City in 2000, we didn't compete with Piedmont for teachers. didn't compete with Skytook. We didn't compete with Collinsville. We didn't compete with Bixby. If you wanted to teach, we didn't compete with them in Deer Creek. If you wanted to teach in a large school system in Oklahoma, then those people weren't in play because those were 3A, 4A districts. Those are now all 5A districts, and they're all growing districts. And so they offer the benefits of teaching in a large school system, which is usually a little bit better salary, a little bit better opportunity to teach exactly what you want to teach and not have to teach a lot of other classes. And so we have to compete with those people. We have to compete with them for teachers, and we have to compete with them for administrators. And, the challenge we face, again, if you have people in your family, either in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, and you know this, if their choice is to, unless they have a strong family tie, if the choice is I can live in the Tulsa or Oklahoma City metropolitan area, most of them choose to live in the Tulsa, Oklahoma City metropolitan area. So, we have to offer opportunities for advancement. We have to offer great professional growth opportunities. We do that, and we have to be competitive in our salaries. And the day may come where we don't want to do that. The day may come where our first thought on hiring a principal or a teacher or an assistant superintendent is let's get the cheapest person possible. And, you can do that. You can get the cheapest person possible. I'm not sure that is in the best interest of students and the community in the long term. You have to be fair in what you pay. You can't throw money at people. We don't do that. We try to, when people have worked for us, and they show us that they're good at what they do, that we believe they bring value to the district and value to the community, then we've attempted to raise their salary in such a way that it makes it hard for them to leave. I think that's what we want to do.
I hope everybody has a great spring break. I would like to give you a chance if there's anything about this part of the year or anything you'd like to talk to parents about right now and students, give you a chance.
I think the one thing I would want to talk about, everybody's well aware that we had an incident with a gun at the high school last week. And the first question I get is, what are we going to do to make sure that never happens again? What I would tell you and tell our audience is we can't do that. I wish we could. I wish I could tell people that we will never have another student bring a gun into the Ponca City schools, and that there's 3 or 4 things we can do to make sure that won't happen. I don't know what those things are because I don't know of any school district in the country that has found that. We always have a question about when we put metal detectors up. Well, absent a system like you see at airport security, I'm not sure that we could, again, guarantee everybody with certainty that just putting a metal detector up is going to prevent somebody from bringing a gun in. I mean, if you think about it, at the high school, you'd have to put a metal detector on about 25 doors. And you'd have to have people man those metal detectors. And you would have to put every backpack, every bag that goes through there went through that metal detector. I'm not aware of any school that has experienced a school shooting that has put a metal detector in. So that's not the answer. So what is the answer? I think the answer is that we have to continually work with our kids. We have to continually talk to our students about being responsible. We have to ask them to let us know, which is exactly what happened a week ago Monday. The student who brought the gun showed it to other students. They went and told campus security. What do we know about people that have brought guns to school and have opened fire? When Columbine first happened, we had this initial idea that it was because of bullying. 10 years later, I guess maybe even 12 years later now with Columbine, most of the research says that's not really what that may have played a minor role, but it's not the reason. what we know about school shooters is sometimes there's been something traumatic that's happened in their life. Maybe it's a divorce. So that's an issue. So, what we tell our students is if you have friends who are going through tough times because of family issues, talk to your parents about it. Make sure that a teacher or a counselor or somebody knows, so that we can be there to reach out to that student and ask them if they need any help. We know that most school shooters have transmitted their intention somehow. Maybe they sent an email to somebody. Maybe they posted something on Facebook. So if you receive an email that concerns you, then students need to tell their parents. And they need to tell teachers and administrators. If you see something on Facebook, you need to tell your parents, tell your school administrators, tell your teachers. It really is all about communication. And if our students will tell the adults in their life the concerns that they have, then we can all work together to get the young people who maybe are making a threat or who are talking about doing something, maybe we can get them the help they need. The young man in Ohio, we still don't know why he did what he did. We just don't know. So there are things to look out for. You have a friend that all of a sudden changes a lot, they start acting differently. Tell somebody. That's really what it's all about. If we'll do those things, then I think our environment will be safe. The key is the students at Ponca City High School did what they were supposed to do. The young man made a mistake. We may never know why he really brought that gun to school, but he did. He made a mistake. He reached out. He showed somebody what my guess is probably, if you could really do the psychological analysis, he was looking for help. He showed some classmates. They did the right thing. They told an adult. And we were able to prevent either a tragedy at the high school or a tragedy somewhere else later in the day.
Are our security people, I know they're trained, but I guess you're never really ready until you have that experience, and I don't ever remember anything like this, and you don't either, I'm sure. So did it all go well to a point where they were able to apprehend and get, are you happy with that security?
It went exactly, it couldn't have been any better. The students who saw the gun came and told our campus security officer. Because of the improvements we made to our security system, which, by the way, we've also done with bond money, he was able to pull up on video, and he was able to see where the students were in the building, and he was able to see the gun that the student had with him. So he wasn't approaching a student who he thought might have a gun. He was approaching a student who he knew had a gun. He didn't know if it was the backpack, didn't know if it was where he had it. So immediately, again, using police training, he approached the student. He cuffed him or put him in restraints because he knew he had a weapon. And that was the only way to make sure that the student didn't harm himself or harm anybody else. So really it went as well as it could have possibly went. Now, obviously, anytime you have something like that happen, you go through a whole long list of multiple guns, hit lists, that kind of stuff. And unfortunately, because of cell phones and instant communication, we don't have the time that we really would like to have to be able to investigate that stuff thoroughly before we respond to those inquiries. Wasn't a list of people, nobody else involved. One student made a mistake. He did something he shouldn't have done. We've had people ask about punishments for that. What happens? This is one of the only area of school discipline that is completely outside of the principal's discretion. If somebody brings a firearm to school, by federal law, it is a one calendar year suspension from school. That can be modified by the superintendent. There's no appeal to the Board of Education or anything like that. And so You know, what do you modify for? Well, if you look at historically, where does it get modified? When a student, you know, you have a grade school student who somehow gets a hold of a gun that he's bringing for show or tell or something, he didn't have a proper adult supervision, and a young child who maybe doesn't know any better makes a mistake. You know, it's awful hard for a high school student to convince me that that he didn't know what he was doing, didn't know that he had the gun in his possession. I mean, obviously, when you show other students, you know what you're doing. I mean, there could always be circumstances, but I'd be very surprised if something like that happened in this. And again, that's the way the federal statute is written, calendar year. And so, again, that's a huge mistake for a young person to make. So, anyway.
Have a good spring break. We hope you have a great spring break. And we'll talk to Dr. Pennington when the board meets in April as well. For Dr. Pennington, I'm Phil Turney, and the board wrap-up.
My staff and students are so excited that Larry got this award. We're really proud of him, and let me tell you why. Larry DeGan is dedicated to his students, faculty, and family, and it makes him a true hero to all that know him. He has a way of connecting with at-risk students. He builds a sense of self-worth and accomplishment that they may have never felt before. He's a mentor to students and teachers alike, a person that everyone can turn to when they are in need of advice or helping hand. He understands the pressure of testing and finds a way to encourage and support the staff and students. This was a big one for us. Larry is an innovator who brings 21st century learning strategies into his physical education program. Students experience deeper learning about current health topics through the use of online discussions, online research. He tries new ideas and incorporates academic vocabulary from across the curriculum. He provides fun and creative physical games and activity that fosters participation by all students. Larry goes above and beyond on a daily basis, and we are proud to call him one of our own. And I want to put in just a personal testimony. When we started this, we started the laptop program, got the grant 2 years ago, and Larry was the first one that came training and says, "I'll never use this." And this is the man. This is the man. He finds ways all the time of ways to use the technology, and it continues to challenge the kids, and they learn so much. And we are so excited about him being on our staff, and he just helps East be a place that learning is the only option. So we're proud of you, Larry, for being the Employee of the Month.
Well, thank you very much. I work with an amazing staff there at East with Barbara and all the faculty. And, you know, last year we got a lot thrown in our laps with those laptops. But it's been very challenging, but the staff has really stepped up and done an amazing job. And it's just great to be able to work with people like that. And they've helped me come up with these ideas, and I'm like, okay, how do we do this? But somebody figures it out, and so we begin to do it. And it has been challenging. It has been very fun. So thank you very much.
Paula Sneed is the lead custodian at Poe High and has been in this lead position for the last 4 years. Paula works during the daytime hours where most other custodians at Poe High work at night, cleaning up after a day at school. Paula gets to be the one to maintain the high school during the times when students are present, messy, and needy. This is not to say that along with the students during this time, the staff at Poe High is not present. I'm sorry, I jumped a line there. Paula gets to open up the building each day, which takes about an hour. Her daily duties include, but not limited to, maintaining the restrooms, cleaning up spills, running errands, performing minor repairs, delivering paper, accepting delivery packages, etc., 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 all day long. The high school campus is fairly large and spread out, and she is expected to be in many places at once and has proven to do that on many occasions. Paula takes pride in the fact that she can take care of so much and so many people daily. Paula also volunteers her time to help different student organizations in their efforts to make a difference at Poe High and in life. One staff member asked Paula if she would be willing to serve on the staff council at Poe High. Paula enthusiastically agreed and has been a great asset. Ms. Chapman said, "Paula is good with students and staff. If we need something for our classroom, staff council activities, or last-minute things, Paula is always there to help. Paula Sneed is deserving of the Support Employee of the Month as it is congratulated on her selection for March of 2012.
Well, first of all, this was too little of a page to be able to put everything we wanted to put, but Mrs. Officer has always been a friend of Woodland School. She volunteers her time to help out anytime and anywhere. Her dedication to education goes beyond our school walls. She is a 2-year member of the District Parent Liaison Committee, always bringing back positive attitudes about discussions. She is eager to learn more about schools in order to communicate with other parents. Mrs. Officer knows the value of parental involvement, and she works tirelessly to involve families in our PTA, of which she is president. She is also a respected member of our building level team, at which her ideas and input are welcomed. Her attitude each day, and this is the most important part, her attitude each day brightens those around her. Mrs. Officer would never ask for recognition for all she does, but Woodlands appreciates her extraordinary efforts to do what is right for kids. Thank you, Mrs. Officer.
I have to say thank you to all of the staff and the teachers, everyone at Woodlands. They are our family. My kids have gone there since my oldest was in pre-K. And thank you to my family for all of the time that you've allowed me to be up there and not be embarrassed by your mommy roaming the halls. So, and to my husband, who probably goes crazy every time I say, we've got another PTA project. Thanks.